Hi everyone, welcome to my weekly video blog. Firstly, an apology. I should have been posting the past couple of weeks, these blogs. Never got around to doing it. Why? Because I've just been so busy out in the community, loads of casework and emails, lots and lots of meetings. So if you want to get in touch with me, please do use the contact details on the Rochdale Council website. Secondly, it's been a quite an emotional and happy week for me. My daughter graduated from Manchester Metropolitan University. So yeah, it was beautiful to be at the Bridgewater Hall in Manchester celebrating that. And then the day after to have my extended family together to celebrate that. So that was a beautiful moment. Right, let's get stuck in. So as you know, it's the first council meeting. You've probably seen the speeches that I was able to make. So the full council in the chamber, there were 3 motions that I spoke on. There were 6 questions that I asked of the cabinet members and those in charge, and numerous interventions and comments. And this is stark contrast to my Labour predecessor, who didn't even speak in that chamber once, didn't ask a single question. And when I was asking you, if you vote for me, what would you get? And that you'd get that strong leadership, upfront leadership, advocating for your rights and fighting for you in the council chamber. And I'm proud I've been able to do that. So that's been absolutely fantastic. So there's that. There was a motion on Kashmir, which was moved by the Liberal Democrats. Proud to support it, as were the Workers' Party councillors. Kashmir is important because many of my residents in Milkstone and Deeplish come from that part of the world and had written to me with their concern. Actually, my parents come from there, so it is a part of my identity and DNA. We've got to see an end to the violence, a communication blackout, the lack of food, and we need to make sure that there is a peaceful settlement which leads to elections that are free and fair. And I'll keep an eye on that and continue to advocate for you, the residents. Secondly, the Labour Party put a motion in on deporting Shabir Ahmed, the Rochdale grooming gang ringleader. I just wanted to put some facts out there, because obviously the Labour Party are trying to say, well, it's because of the early release scheme, because we haven't got enough prison places. The reality is that the Conservatives over 14 years did not increase prison places. And the reason we're in this mess now is because of the inept inaction from the Conservative Party. They were the party that introduced early release. It started off at 18 days, then it linked that up to 35 days, and then eventually by May 2024 they went up to 70 days. They've released 13,325 prisoners under that policy. The Labour Party changed the law when they came into government, and they've released 60,000 people between September 2024 and December 2025. That's according to the BBC. And that was those who've saved just 40% of their sentence. Child sexual abuse, murderers, those people convicted of the most heinous crime should not be released. And that's why it's good the government paused this policy, and we'll keep an eye on that. But the Labour Party knew that Shabir Ahmed was going to be released under their policy, and yet they didn't do anything. They sat back and watched the fury and anger in communities like mine in Milkstone and Deeplish in Rochdale. So that's the reality of Labour. They were trying to be opportunistic and jump on this. And the other thing is that they've had 14 years to do something on child sexual exploitation. It was the institutions that failed, the local authority, youth services, the police, schools, the education departments, collectively. And those institutions, they've not been held to account, the individuals who made those decisions. That's why I think institutional accountability is so important, and I'll continue to push that as well. The third motion was about cooperatives and, giving community groups assets in their community. Could be community centres, could be libraries. We're going to be very, very careful that if we do that, one, we upskill the volunteers and the trustees of those organisations, but actually make sure that the resource and investment is there. Let's not just give somebody a building and not give them the funding or support them through the funding journey. So that's really important. So that was really part of the things that I was talking about. There was a motion from the Rochdale controlled Labour Party. They wanted to increase council allowances. And I know how tough the cost of living crisis is. I know how tough life is at the moment. And my conscience could not bring me to vote in favour of that motion. The fact that we increase council tax every year. Sorry, can I correct myself? The Labour Party increase your council tax every year. Service levels are going down. Quality of service is going down. And yet your council tax is going up. And so in those circumstances, I could not bring myself to vote for it. So I got up, I spoke against the motion and then voted against it. And I'll continue to argue that we make sure that we deal with the cost of living crisis, because that's really, really important. This week we saw Keir Starmer resign as Prime Minister and Andy Burnham is the new Prime Minister. Look, from a purely human point of view, there's a transition there, and best wishes, because you want your Prime Minister to succeed. But he'll be judged not by his slicky social media videos, but by real policy change. Investment in communities, tackling the cost of living crisis, not making artificial changes that might give you £2 or £3 off your bills, but actually sustained investment in working class communities, tackling poverty, investing in those public services. And he'll be judged, as I said, not by his social media presence, but at the policies that he takes both here in the UK and abroad. And as an opposition party, as the Workers' Party, will continue to push the Labour Party on that. I want to finish, if you like, about the threat from the far right and racism and the rise of Islamophobia. We've seen a massive increase of attacks against people of colour, and it's been carried out by the far right. It's been normalised by politicians. You know, when mosques are being attacked, when a school is threatened with being firebombed and 400 pupils have to be evacuated, and it doesn't even register in the news. When a mosque is firebombed or threats are made, people shrug their shoulders and move on. And I think that's deeply deplorable and unacceptable. So we need to call that out. We need to make sure that there is no hierarchy of racism in this country, that all forms of racism needs to be tackled, support for all communities, and that is something I will be fighting. And finally, the World Cup. What a great performance by England. It could have been even better, and we could have been in the final. But anyway, I'm so glad Spain won, Argentina lost. And I'm looking forward to the normal football service resuming in a few weeks' time. But as always, thank you so much. I know it's a bit longer than it would have normally been, but I just wanted to get this video recorded, and I'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.